Let me start with again thanking word of thanks to His Excellency Moazzam for affording us an opportunity to organize an event in collaboration with High Commission and STCA. Special thanks to Baroness Nushina ji for being always there, for championing the cause of bilateral relationship between the two countries. Special thanks to Javed Iqbal Saab and Muhammad Iqbal Saab, Minister of IT from AJK, who especially travelled for the event itself. The purpose of this presentation is really just to warm up the conversation. What are the objectives and outcomes for which this session has been organized, and what are the tangible, measurable outcomes that we strive to achieve via the organizing this session and forthcoming other activities. So without further ado, I'll quickly start with the sequence of presentation. The first is to explain the journey itself about us. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because more we are interested to dissect what are the objectives and outcomes of each session for which we have requested distinguished speakers to speak today. So without further ado, a very quick introduction about PTEN itself. PTEN is a London-based tech advocacy forum. We work extensively to facilitate from a private sector this initiative by the government itself to increase the exports of Pakistan. Already some of the stats have been mentioned by His Excellency. I'll just amplify some just to re-emphasize the powerful factual positions. In terms of the vision itself is very crystal, which is we intend to basically leverage technology, how technology can be leveraged to elevate poverty and ensure gender empowerment, how the relationship between two different countries can sort of snowball into an impact where, like Ambassador Saab mentioned, 1.6 million strong expat community lives here. How to help build those bridges from the private sector is what we intend to really focus on. In terms of the goal, there are 6 goals that we strive towards. First is access to markets. London is one of the second most effective technology hub in the world after Silicon Valley. So for the fintech side, a lot of fintech representation sits here in this room today. And as you know, that London happens to be the world's most effective tech hub for the fintech industry. So in order to help build those bridges, that is why we intend to enable interaction between different technology companies, between the two countries itself, to help accelerate advancement of innovation and accelerate again poverty alleviation and gender empowerment. Second is mentorship and thought leadership. Some senior managing directors from different banks are sitting here. They also happen to be expats. So we are striving to provide an opportunity of mentorship to upcoming entrepreneurs from Pakistan, and specifically hailing from the startup scene of the London itself. How can we connect between the two markets, access to capital, networking and collaboration. That is one of the key reasons why we organize this event. And of course, enable a landscape for park-based unicorns. 96 was the magic number that His Excellency mentioned in his address, the number of unicorns that we have from the UK. How can we leverage that experience of the British companies and leverage that experience and replicate it to Pakistan? That is one of the key takeaways that we strive to achieve. So, without further ado, quick deep dive on the objectives and outcomes. The first session will cover Pakistan is open for business. Our distinguished chairman from Special Technology Zone Authority, Mr. Amir Hashmi, will be making the address. So there are 3 objectives. First is to give the regulatory readiness of Pakistan itself. What is the regulatory environment like? Where do we stand on ease of doing business? And how technology companies are being enabled to sort of accelerate their success by tapping into the talented pool of Pakistan human resource. Regional comparison, so also a regional comparison of incentives between Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, so that there is a comprehensive picture in front of all the distinguished participants. That is something that we aim to cover in this session. And of course, the prospects of EODB, ease of doing business. The desired outcomes in line of these objectives is first to generate familiarity about the existing ecosystem. Second is to address any misconceptions about the regulatory regime that may exist. And we'll have a very engaging session moderated by Managing Director at Barclays to ensure that we are able to, of course, address any misconceptions in a very candid manner in this August gathering. And then, of course, the incentives and success stories from Pakistan, right? So these are the objectives and outcomes that will drive the first session. The second session will be about bridging UK-PAK ecosystem, specifically helping nurture the bilateral relationship between the two nations. Again, first will be about familiarity about UK tax system. I'll share some of the stats here also, just so that we are warmed up to the conversation. Familiarity about Pakistan tech ecosystem. Some of the stats that His Excellency mentioned, for instance, $360 million were raised last year. So given a bit of a context to those numbers and diving deep into those numbers and the stories behind those numbers is what we intend to capture. Workable roadmap. So not just the talk, but what is the tangible roadmap that we can outlay to enhance that bilateral relationship, specifically in regards of technology. Desired outcome is demand responsive actionable roadmap. What are the gaps that exist in Britain? For instance, 45 billion pounds worth of tech imports UK conducts every year. 45 billion pounds. What are those areas where Pakistan can come in and help plug up those gaps is what we intend to cover. Build blueprint for co-creating and engagement. This session, of course, will be moderated by Javed Iqbal Sahab, a vibrant presence. And he will, of course, be talking at length about the existing ecosystem and how we can co-create value. And ideating, again, success stories. Look at what, for us to visualize what success stories should look like. We, intend to capture in this session. The third session is business and investment opportunities. This session will be moderated by our very high achiever, financial advisor and board member, Ms. Ayla. She has also specifically traveled from Pakistan for the function. We are thankful. And the objectives in this session will be about familiarity about innovation ecosystem. Some of the speakers here are also the active investors in the Pakistan ecosystem. So Ali Fareed, for instance, will be speaking a lot of his journey when they invested about $5 million and more in Pakistan ecosystem just last year. Familiarity about Pakistan tech investment profile and the prospecting opportunities. The desired outcomes again are success stories and incentives regime that will be amplified when STCA gives a presentation and there's a whole holistic overview of the incentive regime that is being offered by Special Technology Zone Authority. Identifying key bilateral prospects, again, tangible, actionable, precise, measurable outcomes is what we aim to strive towards. So with this, I just warm up the conversation to give an overview of the existing ecosystem. There are some of the quick facts. I'm not going to talk about all facts, but some of the main facts are that Pakistan is a vibrant and rising tech destination. And in Pakistan, you see more than 340,000 IT professionals, with more than 25,000 added into the mix every year. So how can that monetize the talent gap that exists within the UK market is what we wanted to really talk about. Again, it's a trading economy. 4.8% GDP growth was revised to 5.7% by the way for last year and projected to grow even more. And of course, the penetration of telecom, the highest regional penetration of GSM exists in Pakistan. His Excellency has already talked about it at length. So these are some of the facts, but of course, panelists in their conversation will be amplifying those. Some of the quick facts about the tech ecosystem. $365 million exactly, to be precise, has been raised last year, but this is an exponential growth of 450% year on year. And these are just some of the picks from those different rounds. And some of the investors of those rounds are also sitting in this room. So it will be good, meaningful conversation to understand their journeys and then help us articulate our success stories going forward. Some of the quick facts about UK ecosystem. Again, it's a rising economy. The tech ecosystem itself is huge. You have $585 billion, technology ecosystem. There's an exponential rise. I think this connection is not working. Yeah, so VC investment has been on a rise. Tech is becoming more important. So only last year, 7 further unicorns were added to the mix, and they were actually in Europe. The highest concentration of unicorns is what you find in UK. That's something for us to learn lessons from and draw inspiration. And UK Tech, of course, tech VC investment, about $15 billion was recorded in 2020. So these are some of the facts, of course, when Pakistan and British Business Council is talking about those facts. I'm hoping that in this session, when we are talking about the UK-Pakistan bilateral, relationship, these are the facts that will sort of work as a beacon for us to, of course, mature our conversation further. Lastly, what are the potential avenues of collaboration? What is the enabling ecosystem? Of course, we have a common business language. Location already has been mentioned by His Excellency. Legal practices pretty similar. Affinity and familiarity with UK companies and brands. You add into the mix about 1.6 million families which are connected to the 1.6 million Pakistanis who are residing here. An abundance of talent. Pakistan is the second youngest population in the world, with third largest English-speaking diaspora in the world. Not many are familiar with these figures, but I think these are, and it's also the 5th most populous country. So there's an abundance of talent which is available. And of course, low production and labor cost. In terms of the potential avenues for collaboration, again, 585 billion pounds worth of tech ecosystem exists. An affordable and talented workplace can be tapped into the instant access Pakistan can provide. So with this, what we are going to do is that we are going to showcase a very crisp visual 2 minutes video of Tech Destination Pakistan, and from there onwards we'll formally start the session with session 1. Thank you. Chair.